Hello, Nickelodeon fans, and welcome to This Week in Nickelodeon History, where we're covering every Nickelodeon show that started or ended between the times of October 10th and October 16th. I am your host, Captain Eric, and welcome to another edition of just a more relaxed version of this show. I do a lot of editing and putting a lot of energy into pretty much every project, and not that I don't want to put an energy into this, but I want to put in a different kind of energy. I want to be able to relax, talk about some of these things, reflect, and I just feel like at the next gear for most projects, and sometimes, you know, even when you have a really nice car and you want to fly down the highway at 100 miles per hour, it's also nice to throw on cruise control and just let that baby ride for a little bit at a nice speed, and just enjoy your surroundings. And that's kind of what I want to evolve this show into, just a more relaxed feel, more down to earth. We're covering Nickelodeon, and sometimes I might want to talk about other things that are connected, but it'll all stem back, I promise. I'll never bring up anything beyond the slate ahead. But we're starting out with something that premiered 2 years ago on October 14th, 2019. We had the premiere of the Casa Grandes. Based off of characters created by Chris Savino, this show was developed by Michael Rubiner and Miguel Puga. The show is a spin-off of The Loud House, taking characters, Ronnie Ann, who was established in The Loud House as a friend of Lincoln Loud, and this character would eventually move to the city and move in with her family, the Casa Grandes. That idea is so classic of television. It's as classic of television as you can get the idea of the spinoff. Not thinking in Planet Sheen where, you know, it's the original show has ended. Okay, we're going to take one of those characters. Like, that's one idea of the spinoff. But what I'm talking about is even beyond that, it's classic. If you ever want to go down a rabbit hole online, especially if you're young, go down the rabbit hole of the All in the Family extended universe and the amount of spinoffs off of spinoffs that would all sometimes be concurrently live on television. And it's different than Planet Sheen, where the original show ended and they're continuing the concept. The Casa Grandes is ongoing while the Loud House is still going. They literally took a character that was introduced on one show, spun it off. Both shows are still going. That's been done since, you know, back from All in the Family, and has just ballooned off. You would have characters where they were neighbors that were then spun off to other shows, the Jeffersons. You would then have characters from the Jeffersons spin off to their own shows that would become wildly successful, and it like spider webs off into a crazy level. And I think even to this day you could trace shows that are somehow still in this universe. I haven't gotten that far, but maybe I will. But yeah, the Casa Grandes still going strong. It's been renewed for a third season. Congratulations to both shows of The Loud House and the Casa Grandes. I mean, The Loud House on its own has been a wild success for Nickelodeon and has shown that beyond SpongeBob, and a lot of shows have been very popular beyond SpongeBob, but it was able to show that even beyond those shows, that another show could explode to a level comparable somewhat to SpongeBob. But it's remained popular. It's gotten a movie. It's gotten live action movie. It has a successful spinoff, and I think that part right there is indicative to the success of the entire franchise. You have two successful shows going on, and the spinoff is as successful as the original. that's just fantastic. So congratulations to every team who has worked on any of those shows. Like, fantastic work. I have not delved into the Casa Grandes. I've not delved into the Loud House. Everything I've seen has been clips online. I've seen some episodes when they've released like full episodes. When I was teaching, it was around the time that the Loud House was getting really popular, so I was shown an episode or two, and it did, give off a very like, hey, this feels very Nickelodeon. It feels right at home. Like it wasn't a show that I would look at and say, I could see that on another channel. No, it felt like Nickelodeon. So, congratulations to all those shows, and it's something I hope to kind of dive into one of these days. But we're moving on to the another show that is 2 years old. On October 11th, 2019, the revival of Are You Afraid of the Dark premiered on Nickelodeon. Man, Are You Afraid of the Dark is... I'm a big fan of horror, and when you become a fan of that franchise, that genre of film, you can always find an early point in your life, something you watched that you were like, ooh, I'd like to see more of that. Are You Afraid of the Dark is probably the earliest thing I can think of in my life that I would have watched on television that would have shown me anything scary, and I enjoyed it. I love Are You Afraid of the Dark. I love the original series. Here's the thing. I have not watched either of the revival movies, but, and I can prove this, I've purchased both of them on DVD. I've supported the Are You Afraid of the Dark project. Like, that's the best I can, other than watching it, but money speaks, so I have bought both DVDs. It is October. I have more than enough time that I can watch both of those, so possibly as a YouTube extra, as a review of some sort. But we're moving on to Nickelodeon's another Halloween-centric film, Liar, Liar, Vampire, which premiered 6 years ago on October 12th, 2015. I've never seen the movie. The one notable Nick star that I can point out, Breck Bessinger, who was from Bella and the Bulldogs and is now, I think, Stargirl on the CW, which I heard is doing pretty successful over there. And I wouldn't expect any less from the Arrowverse, if that is a part of it. But yeah, I've not seen Liar, Liar, Vampire. I don't know. There's so many of those just... It's the same thing, like, even if you grew up with Disney Channel original movies, the movies being made are kind of for the kids at the time. So, yeah, like, I'm not going to watch a lot of new stuff unless there's some sort of an appeal that appeals to me. Case in point, Legends of the Hidden Temple, the TV movie. Hey, it's based on a game show I used to watch. You got me in the door. I'll watch a movie. But if it's Liar, Liar, Vampire, if it's worth watching, if something has good word of mouth and it's just like, hey, it's on a streaming service, absolutely let me know. If Liar, Liar, Vampire is worth checking out, absolutely let me know. 7 years ago, on October 22nd, 2014, NFL Rushone ended its run on Nicktoons Network. An entire cartoon based off of football and NFL's name branding and the branding of the, I don't know, some NFL teams and I imagine whatnot. Yeah, it had 3 seasons of 65 episodes, 22 short-length episodes, 1 television movie, and 42 full-length episodes. That's a lot. That's a lot of NFL Rushone. We talked about this not too long ago, right in the beginning of September there. I obviously haven't seen much since, but the concept's interesting. And Nickelodeon and the NFL have had a great relationship, and it's only getting better to the point that there may just be NFL games live on Nickelodeon moving forward, which, you know what? In this world of content, constantly clashing, and like, hey, it's worth trying something new. It could be something totally worth getting into. But then you can see the early tracings of their relationships, even beyond this TV show. But hey, they made an entire cartoon with one another. That's something to say. All right, 7 years ago, on October 13th, 2014, Blaze and the Monster Machines premiered on Nickelodeon. Created by Jeff Borkin and Ellen Martin, the show is still running, and it's had 6 seasons, and it's had 108 episodes. Its concept, think of Pixar's Cars, but they're monster trucks. Now, it's has nothing else beyond the fact that it's sentient vehicles. That's what I was getting at. Nothing else. There's no other similarities as far as I know. There could be stuff in the show, but I have not seen anything but some footage and whatnot. But hey, it's still running strong. Good for all the team over there. Keep on trucking. That's all I got to say about that. Since we're on the topic of monster trucks, why has there not... Shout out to Gravedigger, by the way, who's been going strong for a couple decades. Why has there not been a Reptar monster truck? Has that never been brought up? Can somebody out there, please listen to this audio, send it out to Rhett. There's got to be an artist out there who can draw this up. What a cool concept that would be. If they had like a Monster Jam, I don't know, 90s night, and they brought out all the monster trucks from the 90s, maybe the 80s, 90s, whatever that era, whatever other trucks you can think of. I only have Gravedigger on the top of my head, and I know of a few other trucks, but I don't want to say them because they're probably from the wrong era, but you know what I mean. And then you have, Reptar come out and just destroy some cars. That would be cool. That'd be great. Yeah, shout out to Monster Jam there. Totally different company. Next up, we are covering something that premiered 8 years ago on October 14th, 2013, The Thundermans. Premiered on Nickelodeon. The show was created by Jed Springer and ran for 4 seasons of 98 episodes. It was a sitcom about a superhero family. Now, a lot of people, and myself included, have brought up the fact that Nickelodeon was very successful in that they had 2 ongoing superhero sitcoms, both running at the same time and both doing very well and very popular. You would think that there would be some kind of burnout, but I think both shows did the superhero thing so wildly different that it worked out in the end. That was just, the Thundermans had the entire family dynamic, the idea that one sibling would want to go evil, where Henry Danger was, dealing with one kid's life being a superhero. So they're 2 different shows just dealing with a concept. And they ran successfully. You don't even need to ponder whether or not that's possible. It is. This show also had the character of Dr. Colosso, a former supervillain who has been transformed into that of a rabbit and lives in the evil siblings, evil lair, and is, kind of just there to offer advice and live as a rabbit. But he's voiced by Dana Schneider, Master Shake of Aqua Teen Hunger Force and many other projects, but I absolutely adore Dana Schneider. So when this was on television, a lot of the clips I saw were of Dr. Colosso, and even on the episode where Dana Schneider actually got to play him live in person, and I'm sure it's happened a few times. But yeah, show ran for a very long amount of time. I wish they would have given this show come on, it was at 98 episodes. You could do a double length special to cap it at 100. Like you could easily do that. I think there's reason enough to come back to these characters at some point for a special. I would. I'm not sure many would disagree. It's got its fans out there, right? Speaking of fans, fantastic segue, by the way, totally unplanned, but if you know where this is going, 12 years ago on October 12th, 2009, Fanboy and Chum premiered on Nickelodeon. Created by Eric Robles, the show Fanboy and Chum actually originated from a short known as Fanboy that first aired on Random Cartoons, Nickelodeon's, newest iteration of Oh Yeah Cartoons, another Assortment of shorts by Fred Cyber and Frederator Incorporated. Random cartoons actually premiered on Nicktoons Network instead of the main Nickelodeon channel. The initial short, Fanboy, premiered on August 14th, 2009, and was an instant hit. Fanboy and Chum would later premiere on October 12th, 2009. And honestly, Fanboy and Chum have had a nice little roller coaster ride in terms of its popularity in the eyes of fans. I saw the show when it initially dropped, and there were some, really funny jokes. There were some really annoying moments, but to me, it just still gave off that Nickelodeon charm. Like, hey, this still feels like Nickelodeon to me. But apparently, a lot of people didn't seem to feel that way and thought certain things didn't, belong or whatever angered them. But it ran for 2 seasons and eventually, just saw its way off of Nickelodeon and out of the public consciousness. Over time, though, and I think with time, Fanboy and Chum has aged like fine wine. And I do believe a video by Nicktendo really helped with this ordeal. He put together a nice little video essay kind of just about his experience watching through Fanboy and Chum, pointing out the moments that he also didn't like, but we're also to point out that, hey, if you stick with this show, there's a lot to like. And I think a lot of its charm is in its animation and its writing and its characters. There's a lot to like with this show. If you watched one episode that maybe it just wasn't your thing, I mean, you could point to the biggest TV shows in the world, and there's still going to be an episode out there that people don't like. Don't let one episode, shuffle you away. I do think there's a lot to like here, and it's gonna just, hey, like I've already said, it's aged like fine wine. It's only going to age better. 15 years ago, on October 13th, 2006, The Upside Down Show premiered on Noggin. Noggin, as we've mentioned a few times, is the spinoff channel of Nickelodeon that deals with all of their preschool content. Noggin is its own channel that runs from, I believe, like 4 or 5 a.m. all the way till about 5 or 6 p.m. Then Noggin turns into the N, where they put on more not adult content, but aimed more to a teenager, older demographic, because they figure, hey, preschoolers are probably in bed at this moment, and they make sure the content's there for when kids are awake and whatnot. On this channel, Nickelodeon did a lot of work with Sesame Workshop. Now, not Nickelodeon themselves, but Noggin as their own company, Noggin LLC. So they did a lot of work with the Sesame Workshop. So this was one of those efforts between those two companies, The Upside Down Show. 17 years ago, on October 11th, 2004, The Backyardigans premiered on Nickelodeon. Created by Janice Burgess, The Backyardigans ran for 4 seasons of 80 episodes and finished its run all the way on July 12th, 2013. The Backyardigans is another preschool show from Nick Jr. that has just blown up with new life in both nostalgia, but on the internet. Think about that, 17 years ago. So the kids watching Backyardigans as preschoolers are turning adults now. That is incredible. My brother was born in 2004 and is about to be 18 years old. Like, so here we are. Like, this is a good point in time for the Backyardigans to be popular again. And look, I can't deny it. The level of music, the effort that was put into the music of this show, I think goes above and beyond what we expect for preschool content. I think when most people think of preschool songs, they think of really simple songs. And these are simple songs, but they're also beautifully complex. And it's just musical composition, if that's the right way I'm thinking about it. But either way, they've had a lot of good songs from the Backyardigans that have cropped up in various memes around the world that you've seen, different videos, a lot of just relaxing music. And that's the one thing that Backyardigans are going to be truly remembered for, is the absolute wonderful music. And I think the characters as well are just so simply iconic themselves. And I think as time goes on, they're going to continue. I think there's still room for the Backyardigans in this day in life, and I think with new musicians, I mean, imagine listening to the Backyardigans. How many kids out there listened to the Backyardigans as kids and are making music right now, putting it out on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify? Come on, so imagine now being a kid growing up in that music, making music, and kind of like that, or you've found some inspiration from the Backyardigans, and then you could be hired to write new music for the Backyardigans. That's pretty cool. Let's dive back into that. 22 years ago, on October 16th, 1999, The Amanda Show premiered on Nickelodeon. Created by Dan Schneider, The Amanda Show ran for 3 seasons of 46 episodes, a spin-off of sorts of all that. This took Amanda Bynes, who started her sketch comedy run on all that, and then just ballooned in so much popularity that it was only smart to give her own show, because Kenan and Kel got their own show that proved to be popular. Why not Amanda? The Amanda Show proved to be just as popular in its own right, and featured a slew of other guest stars, 2 of which, Drake Bell and Josh Peck, would go on to create Drake and Josh, and you can keep going with that chain. Still felt to this day through the iCarly revival on Paramount Plus. But I just want to say, as far as Amanda Bynes is concerned, my only feelings on her, I love the comedy that she was able to produce at the ages that she was at. I appreciate the laughs that gave me. She holds a warm place in my heart, and all I hope is that wherever she is, whatever she is doing, I hope she's happy. That's it. It's a very simple desire I really have for anybody who was special to me in that kind of way. Sit back and think about, we can go into that conversation another time, but she's been through a lot, and I just want her happy. The show, 3 seasons, an absolute wonderful show. Some of my favorite sketches, when I think of like Nickelodeon sketch comedy, actually comes from the Amanda Show. Block Blister, in which the whole joke is that they poorly recreate movies and people keep renting from this terrible movie store. You'd think word of mouth would go around the town a bit quicker. That like, hey, if you rent a movie from this store, it's just these people sweeting the movie themselves. Because that was the whole joke. If you've never seen it, Block Blister is I gotta actually explain what Blockbuster is. This is a sad day. For those that don't know, Blockbuster was a store that you could walk into and you would be able to rent a movie, because you didn't have phones or internet at your house. You had players to play movies. So you either bought it at a store or you went to this place to rent. And renting was cheap. It was like 99 cents for a night, or even $1 or $2. If you had guests over, or, it was a very cheap option. And renting is still an option in this day and age, streaming wise, and even those who go to Redbox. But if you do travel to a Redbox, that's the same kind of feeling that you'd have at a Blockbuster, except for you're going into a really cool building, and Redbox, you're just standing in front of an ATM. So Block Blister was the idea of sweeting is that these characters that all spoke in very thick European accents would basically, instead of put out movies that people could rent, they would set up a camera in their back room and get in poorly made costumes and do the movie just terribly, like standing in front of the camera. Like, think of the worst actors in the world trying to like explain how a movie works. And then they would put the movie on the shelf and people would come in, and the whole joke is that somebody would come in, hey, I rented Jurassic Park, and this isn't Jurassic Park. And they'd be like, what? No, you didn't rent Jurassic Park. You And they would put the tape in and they would all watch it, and the people, of course, because they're the actors on the television, they would love the movie. So that was one popular sketch. My other one, the Judge Judy spin-off sketch, Judge Trudy, in which Amanda would play Judge Trudy. If you've never watched Judge Judy, that's a whole other topic in and of itself. But daytime judge shows are a whole genre. There's so many of them. Judge Judy is by far the most famous of them. The one thing I loved about the sketch is that inevitably she just had this moment where she would bring in the dancing lobsters. I don't know why, just that being a part of that sketch was always funny to me, but the dancing lobsters were all over the Amanda Show themselves. So they're some of my favorite Nickelodeon characters, and it's something super simple you can kind of throw in as a concept anywhere. You just throw in a costumed lobster, and it's an Amanda Show reference. So yeah, Drake Bell, Josh Peck got their young start here. They were both very good character actors at a very young age. They showed extreme promise, and they showed so much chemistry with one another that when you were watching this show, I mean, it was kind of like you knew that these characters were meant for more, and everything they gave us in Drake and Josh was everything we knew they could do. Also 22 years ago, on October 16th, 1999, 100 Deeds for Eddie McDowd premiered on Nickelodeon. The show was created by Stephen H. Berman, Mitchell Catlin, and Nat Bernstein, and ran for 3 seasons of 40 episodes. The show revolved around this bully named Eddie McDowd, who, eventually bullies a kid after school and is caught by some kind of like mystical guy and is punished for his bullying ways and has to live life as a dog. And in order to be restored as a human, he must achieve 100 good deeds. Eventually, he lives with the bully that he doesn't live with the bully. He is the bully. He lives with the kid that he was bullying, who helps him achieve these deeds that we never unfortunately get to see. Now, in the first season of this show, Seth Green, known for the Austin Powers movies, Robot Chicken, Family Guy, he voiced Eddie McDowd, but then he was voiced by Jason Harvey in seasons 2 and 3. Jason Doring played Eddie McDowd as a human, and I think it's kind of a shame that we didn't really get a more proper ending to this show. They did a smart thing between seasons, and obviously there was going to be a time jump, and I think they took advantage of that and pushed through the amount of deeds he was going through. Because through the 40 episodes, he got through 60 deeds. So, I mean, they could have done a bit, even if Nickelodeon for their last show, like, hey, we're not renewing the show for a 4th season, but is there even like the thing with the Thundermans? We'll give you two extra episodes at the end of this season to wrap things up. Something like that, especially with a story like this. You're going to invest 3 seasons into this show. Now, granted, I guess they could have done something for that finale, but who knows what was going on? Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they were on the fence of getting a 4th season, and then bam, it just turned on them. But hey, I imagine he got to 60. Eventually, he got to 100. He got to get his human body back, and then Eddie got to live life as a revised human being, not being a bully. That's an interesting. They should go back to that concept in some way, shape, or form. 25 years ago, on October 11th, 1996, Kablam premiered on Nickelodeon, created by Robert Mittenthal, Will McRobb, and Chris Viscardi. Kablam is... how do I explain this in the best way possible? Kablam is kind of like Kablam. It's its own thing. It's a concept of a variety show of animation for kids. There are multiple ongoing shorts that air through Kablam and are told through the pages of a comic book hosted by the hosts of Kablam, Henry and June, two comic book characters who turn the pages of Kablam that bring us these new kind of cartoons. There was a nice little round robin amount of cartoons we got. Not every episode of Kablam featured the same few shorts. Sometimes they would feature brand new shorts that would be around for a couple episodes and then wouldn't be seen again. But when you got shows like Sniz and Fondue, which was classic animation, Action League Now, which was stop motion animation, but also still shots of action figures and then slight moving off camera. It was a whole Action League Now is its whole thing. You got to look that up. Prometheus and Bob, which was full on stop motion animation. Life with Loopy, which was stop motion animation with cardboard cutout looking characters instead of Prometheus and Blob, with clay. Yeah, blobs of clay. You also had, Angela Anaconda and others that, aired like once or twice on Kablam. Just, hey, you featured something new. It was a variety show of animation. And that was the thing. Like, I don't see how in its 4 seasons of Kablam, with the amount of different kinds of content, I can't imagine any person not being able to watch the show and find one of those shorts that they more than like, all right, I really like this. This is pretty funny. There's so many different writing styles, so many different kinds of humor, so many different kinds of comedy being shown to us. It's a lot to take in, and the fact that it's on Paramount Plus, not sponsored here, I was able to binge watch a few seasons of Kablam, and it's a trip. It's a ride. It's a great show. It stands the test of time. I hope it's in its entirety on Paramount Plus and not messed up, because I know that there was a lot of issues with releasing it, and we never got really any DVDs or any real. I mean, there might be like one of those rare like VHS releases of Kablam or some sort of preview, tape out there that I don't know of, but yeah, there was like issues with that getting released. But yeah, definitely check out Kablam when you can. But we're ending this episode 27 years ago. On October 15th, 1994, My Brother and Me premiered on Nickelodeon. Ran for 1 season of 13 episodes and was created by Ilunga Adele and Calvin Brown Jr. I've heard some people, I remember seeing the intro of this show, honestly, more on Nickelodeon than the show itself. A lot of sitcoms at the time that this was on, I was just at such a young age that if it didn't really, if I didn't like what I was watching almost immediately, I would just turn the channel. So my attention span was so thin. So, but I've heard of people who have fond memories of this show, that it was good. It's only a 13 episode show, so it might be something I could bang out. When I'm getting a lot of editing done, and I usually like having something running with and watching. So I don't know if you're a fan of this show, My Brother and Me. Please speak up. Let me know. Is this a show worth diving into? But with that is This Week in Nickelodeon History. Thank you for joining me. I truly appreciate your time, because time is worth its weight in gold. So if there's any way, if you enjoy any of the content that I produce, and there's any way that you see fit in supporting me, by all means, you do you. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming aboard this week. If you enjoy this, just a bit more relaxed version of This Week in Nickelodeon History, or you have ideas on how this show can evolve, I'm here with you. Like, let's do this together. But that is This Week in Nickelodeon History. We'll see you next week. Stay safe out there.
On the Lord Hut, here we hut, Nick. On the Lord Hut, here we hut, Nick. On the Ricky Ticky Low, while living #1 Nickelodeon.